What if healing wasn't just possible, but the very path to a life without limits? Welcome to Seizing Your Greatness. I'm Julianne Meyer, and today's guest is a powerful voice in personal transformation, reconciliation, and the deep work of soul restoration. Bill Good is a speaker, teacher, counselor, and four-time Amazon bestselling author whose passion is helping people recover hope, one relationship, one story, and one breakthrough at a time. With advanced certifications in Christian reconciliation, a master's in leadership, and a master's in divinity from Fuller Seminary, Bill brings both wisdom and compassion to every single conversation. Through his online ministry, Uncommon Community, and his organization, Path to Peace, he guides others from trauma to truth. Whether he's teaching at Grand Canyon University, sharing the stage at TEDx, or writing his next trilogy, Bill leads with heart, humility, and a belief that healing is a gateway to greatness. Bill, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the show.
Julianne, it is a delight to be here. I've been looking forward to spending this time with you. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to it too. For those that are watching, a mutual friend introduced us, and I'm always grateful for those connections because he introduces me to the most amazing people, such as yourself. So it's my honor to have you here today. I just want to dive right in because we don't have a ton of time, but I mentioned a few of your accomplishments.
Mhm.
But what's something that we can't find on the internet about you?
Oh, wow. Interesting question. Way to
It
lead,
could
way to
be
lead with a strong punch,
anything.
Um, I'll tell you something that has been life-changing and has become part of my teaching, preaching, ministry, reaching. Little over a year ago, I was very surprisingly diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Mm.
And I went on that journey of having it analyzed and all the things that go with it, and ultimately went through a procedure. And I'm really pleased to say that at this point, I appear to be cancer free. But it took me on a soul searching journey about, okay, what if I'm not? What if this is the real thing? What if the procedure doesn't work? How do I want to be? Who do
Mm.
I want to be in this time? And it really led to some strong conclusions. I am blessed to have three children, and it occurred to me, and actually four, because one of them is a son-in-law who might as well be my child. The conclusion I came to is I want to leave them a legacy of faith and courage. I want to show them what living well and dying well looks like.
Mm.
And so I just followed that path and I prayed my way through it. And I said, Lord, let me leave this legacy behind. Let me not leave a legacy of fear. Let me leave a legacy of faith. So there's
Wow.
something you won't find on the internet, but it's something that has been a very big part of my thinking, my believing, and my acting in the last year and a half or so.
A lot of people respond to news like that in different ways, mostly fear.
Mhm.
I just and that's understandable. There's no judgment coming from me whatsoever. I just appreciate that you took this diagnosis and said, "Okay, what am I going to do with it?"
Yeah, that was the conversation I had with myself and the conversation I had with God. And I said, listen, you have called me to certain things. I'm counting on you to show up and just carry me through this wherever you carry me, and that's the way it came down. And I'm really grateful.
I
I'm
love
one of the
that.
few people. I'm one of the few people I think that you could talk to that would say that I was grateful for my cancer experience.
Yeah, you are. It's interesting because I used to work in the world of addiction recovery. And so I've been to a lot of A meetings, whether it's AANASA. I mean, anything that ends in an A, I've been to it. And the one thing that always stuck out to me, and I thought it was the most bizarre thing, was when somebody would say that they were a grateful alcoholic or a grateful addict, and I just thought
Mhm.
that's so funny. And then it dawned on me it was that they really faced their life and
Mhm.
woke up. And that's what I'm hearing you say is like, okay, what am I going to do with my time?
Mhm.
I
I
love that.
realized that I had been talking and writing about faith
Hmm.
consistently for almost 20 years. I was a pastor in a church for 18 years, preached virtually every Sunday. So my whole life was talking about those things. And I realized this is the time when you get to document what it is that you've been talking about. This is the time when you get to use an overused phrase. This is the time you get to walk the walk. And it literally took a half a day. The first half day that I got the diagnosis, I was like diagnosis. I was like everybody. I was frightened. I was angry. I was all that stuff. And I was relieved to wake up the next morning, and it was as if there had been an epiphany while I slept. And I
Mm.
woke up and realized, no, this is an opportunity. And for me, as a person of faith, no matter how it comes out, it's a win. If if the cancer gets me, then I get to come face to face with Jesus that I've been waiting for all of my adult life, for sure. And if the cancer doesn't get me, then I get to stay here with these people that I love so much for a while longer. So it was really there was no lose in that deal.
A win-win.
Yeah, it was definitely a win-win.
I think it's interesting. It is kind of an overused phrase, walk the walk, but it's really easy to talk about faith without having it tested.
Yeah, yeah. I think about, I don't remember her name, unfortunately, but if you think back to the Columbine incident all those years ago, and there was that young teenage girl that was driven to her knees by those guys, and they put a gun to her, and they said, "Listen, if you'll renounce your faith, we'll let you go." And she wouldn't do it. And I thought,
Mm.
wow, I've always thought, what would I do in that moment? You know, well, I guess now I know.
Wow. Yeah. That is a truly remarkable thing, though. And I just love that you're a walking example of what faith can be and how to walk through difficult things. Now, I'm curious because has that sort of changed which projects you focus on?
No, no, it hasn't. It's changed some of the focus I bring to them. I am presently, you and I've had this conversation. I am working on a trilogy of books right now. The first to be published this year, and the other two next year, and I'm excited about them. They all have to do with faith, actually very directly. The first one, which is called Between Sundays, focuses on Jesus stories from the gospel, and talks about how did Jesus interact with ordinary people in the streets of life on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays when nobody was in church, right? And how did he work in those people? And I find that he doesn't turn his back on anyone. He doesn't reject anyone. He doesn't make anybody step over any sort of cultural or religious or any kind of standards. They bring their hurt to him and he heals them. So that's kind of book one. Book two is called From Here to There, and it's literally a record of my spiritual journey, my faith development, because I certainly wasn't always a person of strong faith. And so the first has to do with other people. Second has to do with me, and the third is called the Good Factor, and it's about living, quote unquote, the good life. What are the characteristics of a good life as we see in these actions of Jesus? So
Mhm.
no, it really hasn't changed anything. Those were the outlines of the books before the cancer, and they're the outlines of the books now.
I love that. And I love this idea too. What is the good life? Especially because I think as a society, especially Americans, we have this tendency to just sort of follow the herd and follow the pack without
Mm-hmm.
really listening to what it is that we want and need for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been I'm guilty of it. I have climbed the top of a ladder only to realize it's on the wrong building.
Amen, sister. Me too.
I've done it a few times, but and that's I think just part of being human. But it really is. It's kind of like when I discovered that joy isn't what I thought it was,
Mm-hmm.
and being happy isn't what I thought it was or what it looked like in reality for me. I could let go of a lot of preconceived notions. So I'm really pleased to hear that that is your third book. I want to read all of them, but
Thanks.
I'm very excited. And I like that, you're just bringing in your own expertise. It's not like it's something you're passionate about, because anybody that comes on this show has got to be passionate about whatever it is that they're talking
Yeah.
about, and you fit that bill.
Well, I had, it was part of what I most appreciated when you hit my radar screen, as it were. You know, your whole thing in seizing your greatness about the defining moments, right, that shape
Mhm.
visionaries and thought leaders, et cetera. You know, and I thought, oh well, that's perfect for me, and that's a subject that I'm really interested in, is those defining moments, because I've certainly had them. You know, and so I'm grateful to be in the company that you keep here. You know.
Oh, well, thank you. Speaking of defining moments, I would say that a cancer diagnosis is definitely a defining moment. Having
Yes, it was.
children, those are defining moments. But
Yeah.
are there any ones that maybe you didn't realize were at the time, but looking back, it's like, oh, that changed everything? I have one in particular, and
Mhm.
that was when I went to go see the taping of World's Greatest Motivators.
Mhm.
That changed my life. At the time, I was just there for, knowledge and entertainment, but
Mhm.
it literally changed the trajectory of my life. Do you have any of those types of moments?
You know, I do, and I have some that are really much more straightforward. But the probably the one that's sort of the path that you're walking on right now, which what didn't you see coming? Um, you know, I spent 35 years in construction management. Um, I started. It was it's a weird journey. I came to Arizona to get a master's in English, and I worked my way through that. And then I was going to go on and get my doctorate. And I thought, you know, I really want to get out of the academy for a couple of years. And so I basically lied my way into a job as a carpenter's helper. And from there, for $3 an hour, by the way. And from there, I moved into construction. I had a bent for it. It came easy to me. I loved it, and it led to a management career and to a business ownership career. And I thought that that's who I was going to be forever. I was Bill the Builder, you know.
Hmm.
And at some point, I was raised in the church, but I went away from the church when I was in college, and I was gone for a good 20 years. And when my two oldest kids were young, I thought, well, I need to get them into that environment. So we went to church, and I went
Hmm.
for them, right? And the funny thing to me was, I'm the one that got caught. You know, somehow in that process, I felt called in deeper and deeper and deeper. I found myself reading the Bible. I found myself reading other stuff that supported the Bible. And then a associate pastor at the church in which I was a member said, listen, we have an opening on our Wednesday night teaching staff, and we'd like you to take it. And I said, I don't think I know enough to teach this stuff. And he said, well, I think you do. And so I started teaching, and it lit a fire. It just lit a fire. And I just started reading. And the more I read, then the more I wanted to read. And I never saw it coming. And then one night, here's the obvious. That's the unobvious part. The
Hmm.
obvious part is one night I went to bed and I was sound asleep. I'm awakened at about 1:15 in the morning, and I literally hear God talking to me. And he says, I want you to go to seminary. And
Wow.
I'm laying there in the dark and I'm going, hey, dude, I think you got the wrong address. It's dark out there. You must want the guy down the street, because you sure as heck don't want me. And this went on all night. I was awake. I'd get up, go in the living room, go try to go back to bed, awake again, go in the bathroom, awake again, go in the kitchen. You know, it was all night long, up, down, up, down, up, down. And finally, as literally as the dawn was breaking through the bedroom window, I found myself on my knees next to the bed, in which my wife was sound asleep, having no idea this was going on. And I said, okay, I surrender. This is what you want, I'll do it. I don't understand it. I don't know why. But if this is what you want, I'm in. And that day, I reached out to a friend who taught at Fuller Seminary and said, how do I get enrolled? And I did. That started the real serious part of the faith journey.
Oh, I love that story so much, because you didn't ignore the calling. There are so many of us that ignore the calling, and being told plain as day, but going, nope.
Yeah, that's how I felt. You know, what's up with that?
I know, like, okay, am I losing my mind? Like, where is this coming from? It's kind of fascinating how even people who didn't go or haven't gone down the faith path as much as you have had
Mhm.
that kind of conversation and then thought they were crazy and just not followed it for
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. Well, I was reminded, and I'll keep this brief, but I was reminded of this story in the book of Kings of Elijah, where Elijah goes and he has this duel. It's like high noon with the priests of Baal, and Elijah wins on behalf of God. But they're going to kill him. And so he takes off and he runs for 40 days and 40 nights across the desert. And he ends up in a cave at the far end of Israel from where he started. And he just gets to this cave, and you can see this guy. I mean, he's 40 days, 40 nights through the desert. He must like land on the floor of that cave going, and he no sooner gets there than God shows up and says to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" I mean, that's the quote from the text. "What are you doing here, Elijah?" And I felt like that. I felt like that's what God was saying to me. And it's like, oh, well, I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's very fascinating. I've got a real quick story too. The other day, you know that I'm moving soon, and I had a mental breakdown, a little, not like breakdown, but I was starting to freak out. I was walking my dog. It was the last walk of the night. And I said, God, I need a sign. I need a clear sign that I am following the right direction, this whole thing. And then I have
Yeah.
like these little cards that I'll pull from that for life changes. First
Mhm.
one was welcome the new. And I thought, okay, that's pretty on point. But the
Yeah.
other one was heavenly signs. And I thought, okay,
Oh,
I hear you. So, if we're paying attention and if we're asking also for guidance, then it comes. You just have to listen and pay attention, however
yeah.
it is for you.
I was listening to your story, and I was thinking at the end, you almost want to look up to heaven and go, "Oh, now you're just showing off," you
I
know?
know exactly. Now you're just showing off. It always cracks me up. I'm like, thank you for. I asked for clear message. I'd say that's a
Yeah,
clear message.
exactly. I get it. It's my fault. I asked, you know.
Yep, yep. Oh, it's so funny. Now I know that you're writing the trilogy of books, but you also are a four-time Amazon best-selling author. Would you like to talk about those books a little bit?
Oh, I would. It's been a delight. I have one of them right here,
Oh, perfect. Oh,
and
yes.
this is
I
this
have
is
that book.
part of a 4-book series called the Book of Influence. And there is a group out of Integrity Publishing and Habitude Warrior that puts these together, and that's how I got started on this road, and that's how it was Eric Swanson that introduced us, and he's the head of that. So, year and a half, 2 years ago, I was invited into that group by a woman named Meyer Siegel, who is a fabulous, fabulous leader, transformational leader, and had been a mentor to me. And she said at one point, "I think you should be in these books." And so I ended up talking with them, long story short, and I signed up for this thing. So there were 4 books in this Book of Influence series. The books were supposed to be a contemporary response to the teachings of Dale Carnegie, which turned out to be unbelievably relevant. If you go back and read his stuff, you
Yeah.
go, my gosh, here's this guy that was writing in the 40s, and he's really manifesting the kind of fundamentals of transformational change that we're just now going through in leadership groups. And so there would be a theme for each book. This one, for instance, was called the win-win theory. So
Hmm.
what do you have to say about the win-win theory? Well, I wrote my chapter, and it was called Change the Music, Create the Win, which is a
Ooh,
line that I stole from a teacher of mine and appreciated very, very much. But it's change the music, create the win. So there were 4 of these, the win-win factor, creating alignment, authentic communication, likability factor. So I wrote a chapter in each of those. And
I
then
love
each of the books went on to be an Amazon bestseller. And it was a great experience for me. So good that I am now in 2 more series. One called the Book
that.
of Frequency, one called the Book of Frequency, and one called Survival to Thrival. But it's been really good for my writing. It's been really good for my sense of community, because one of the things that Eric does, and his cohort John, is they bring the writers together into masterminds. And so you get to meet the other writers, you get to exchange with them. And I've really developed a close group of friends out of these other authors, and we support one another and what have you. So I've really, really enjoyed the experience, and it's been good for me.
You know what's fascinating? I don't mean to like take anything away from what you just shared, but I actually met Eric at World's Greatest Motivators. He was speaking that day. And that is, like I said, one of those pivotal moments in my life. And so it's kind of, just to give him a little extra pat on the back, because he was there. So
Well,
I
you
love it.
probably know that his motto, which he just repeats with great frequency, and I absolutely love, is called "No drama, serve others,"
Yep,
and
exactly. And
that's exactly
feels
who
so.
he is. You know?
Yep, it is. Well, we are running low on time, and I want to ask you, what is something that you wish that I would have asked you?
Um, Perhaps, how did you come to be here? How did you come to have this faith? How did you come to have this calling? And that's a not a pretty story. I told you I spent 35 years in construction, and I was the archetypal construction guy. Believe me, I'm an ordained pastor, but I speak fluent constructionese, and I have a thoroughly broken background. There are not too many sin paths that I haven't walked down. And it has always been astounding to me, that being the case, that God would have reached out to me and said, "This is what I want you to do. I want you to go to, as I said, I want you to go to seminary." While I was in seminary, I thought it was just about becoming a better teacher. But ultimately, about two-thirds of the way through, I got it. And it said, "No, I want you in pastoral ministry." And I'm like, huh? Why me? What do I have to do? After this broken life, what do I have to share? Well, what I have to share is the benefits of the broken life, and the
Mhm,
fact that God is a redeemer who can reach into the most broken of us, the most failed of us, and can resurrect us, because that's his business.
mhm.
So I don't mind sharing that story. I would probably object to sharing the details, but trust me, trust me, it isn't pretty. But yet somehow God saw something in there that would be useful to him, and called me to do this. And I've been grateful, very, very grateful ever since. It's been the greatest gift of my life, truthfully.
I love that so much. My cousin always says something, or she used to say this to her child when he was the little one. Because he would be upset about messing up or something, and she would always say, "No, perfect is boring. Nobody wants to be friends with somebody who's perfect." And
Yeah.
that, kind of stuck with me because it's so true.
Mhm.
You're relatable. You understand. You're not, on this pedestal up here. You're with everyone and saying, "Hey, this is for you too."
Oh yeah, for sure. It absolutely is, and it's led me to this aspect of my career, teaching in transformational leadership, because it's so great to be able to reach out to these people that come in and they're lost and they're struggling and they're looking. And it's
Mhm,
the same in my teaching at GCU. These are mostly freshmen in college. They have no idea where they're going. Many of them are really lost. They've just gotten out from under the boot heels of mom and dad, and they're living this semi-free life in university. And I am blessed to get the opportunity to say, let me share some things with you that may lead you into a fulfilling and meaningful life.
mhm.
It is such a blessing to be granted that opportunity to reach out to these people who are lost and searching, and say, "I think I have some answers for you."
I really like that. Yeah, absolutely. And when the student is ready, the teacher will appear,
Mhm. Mhm.
which I'm a firm believer in.
Yeah.
Um, so we're almost out of time. Are there any final thoughts that you'd love to share with the audience?
Yeah. If you think it's like you on your walk the other night. If you think you feel God leading you somewhere, even if you are not a person of faith, even if you haven't been in a church in 20 years, even if you haven't been in a church in your life, listen. Listen, because that's what he does. And it's pretty remarkable. There's a writer and theologian that I love named Richard Foster. And Richard Foster says, it amazes me how often when I'm in prayer, God speaks to me and his voice sounds just like mine. You know, if you think that's happening with you, by all means, wake up, pay attention. This is your road out of whatever conundrum you're in, whatever bad places that you've gotten stuck in. This is the path out. This is the path to healing. This is the path to new life. This is the path to exceptional living. And I pray that you will take it.
Beautiful. On that note, that is all the time that we have today. Thank you so much for being here today.
That was
And
my privilege.
yes, absolutely. And for those that are watching, all of the ways that you can reach Bill are down below in the show notes. So please take a look at that. And I've been popping up an email as well throughout the show. So until next week, enjoy your time. That is all the time that we have for today. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.